What's going on, guys? JM here, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at a preview of my Hash Slinging Slasher build for the New World MMO.
The Hash Slinging Slasher!
The reason I call this a preview is because we're still in closed beta, and things will likely change between now and the time when the game fully releases at the end of August. Also, I haven't unlocked all the passive weapon attributes, or weapon abilities, excuse me, because I've been experimenting with a lot of different weapons, trying to figure out really fun play styles. So we're going to delve deeper into that when I review the build again after the game is released. So this video should give you a good overall concept of the playstyle of this build. So with that being said, let's go ahead and look at some combat for the Hash Slinging Slasher. The Hash Slinging Slasher is a long and medium range build that uses the hatchet to apply debuffs and the ice gauntlet for crowd control. Ideally, you want to stay at range, so when enemies are closing in, you have a couple of options to give yourself some room. It's a fun build. I mean, realistically, who doesn't love throwing axes and icicles around at people's faces? The build can also be punishing as well because some abilities require precise aim and timing. Alright, so now that we have a good idea of how combat looks, let's go ahead and check our gear, our attributes, and our weapon abilities. Let's start with our gear first. Okay, so for gear, you're going to want to stick to medium gear. Medium gear gives you a 10% bonus to damage, and your crowd control debuffs last 10% longer. So we have some debuffs in our build with our ice gauntlet and our hatchet, so medium is going to work best. You can also go with light if you choose, because light is going to give you an overall 20% boost to damage. But I recommend going with medium, especially with group content. Alright, now let's get over to our attributes and take a look at those. So as far as I understand, your attributes are going to empower your weapons. Since we're using a hatchet and an ice gauntlet, we're going to distribute our points evenly between, or somewhat evenly between, strength and intelligence. In this build, I like using the ice gauntlet a little bit more, so I put a little bit more with intelligence. But you're going to want to choose, commit your points to strength and intelligence, and choose gear that's also going to boost your strength and intelligence. I'm sure as the game releases, people are going to find out that it's better to maybe pour all your attribute points into one thing versus splitting them up. Who knows? But for the beta purposes, this is what I went with. All right, so let's go ahead and check our weapon abilities. We'll start off with the hatchet. So the idea of this build is mostly ranged, almost all ranged, close combat as well, but it's mostly long range and mid range. So we went with our throwing tree, and the abilities we went with are rending throw, social distancing, which is actually pretty funny, and infected throw. Then over in our ice gauntlet, we went with two abilities from our ice tempest, and then we delve a bit into our builder tree. So with ice tempest, we have ice spikes, wind chill, and then our builder tree, we use ice shower. Let's talk about how we're going to put all of those together. So our rotation starts off with our hatchet. So we start off with our infected throw. This is going to apply a debuff. It's going to be a disease that reduces target's healing efficiency by 30%, and weaken reduces target's damage by 10%. So you want to start off with this. I also found it has a bit of a cast time compared to the other abilities, so I usually typically start off with this. And then we follow that up with rending throw. This is a throw that deals 110% weapon damage, and it applies rend, which reduces the target's damage absorption by 10% for 10 seconds. If we have our axe out and our enemies are closing in and they're getting too close, we can create some distance by using social distancing. This throws an axe forward and dodges backwards, dealing 130% weapon damage, and it slows our targets by 15% for 3 seconds. This is one of the crowd control debuffs that I talked about that benefits from us wearing medium armor. Now let's head back over to our ice gauntlet. The abilities that we're going to use here is our ice spikes, and this is going to be our main damage dealer from medium range. It shoots out about 8 meters, and you can cut it off early if you time it correctly. If they get too close and you need to create some distance, you're going to use wind chill, as it pushes your enemies back and gives you the ability to gain some room, so you can switch to your hatchet, start throwing again, or start casting your ice abilities. And the ice shower here is going to be another crowd control debuff that will benefit from our medium armor. You pretty much just lay this out. It's a line in front of you, and it's going to delay enemies for 1 second, roots them. It blocks sprinting, dodging, and it slows their speed by 50%, and it remains on the target for 3 seconds after they exit the shower or the line that you placed. So these are the abilities that you're going to be using with both of your weapons. So now that we reviewed our gear, our attribute points, and our weapon abilities, let's go ahead and take a look at a breakdown of the rotation. Okay, so we're going to start off with our hatchet first, and we're going to start off with our infected throw. Infected throw is going to apply our disease and weaken debuffs. Then we're going to follow up with rending throw, which is going to apply another debuff that reduces the target's damage absorption by 10%. Then we're going to switch to our ice gauntlet. We're going to see if we can do some damage before they get too close. And then we're going to put down our ice shower. Our ice shower is going to stop them in their tracks. It's going to give us time to set up a ice spike for damage. And if they continue closing in because they're not dead yet, we can follow up with our wind chill to gain some distance. Or if we have our gauntlet, our hatchet out, we can follow up with social distancing. And then it kind of repeats itself from there. You can switch it up a little bit depending on the scenario, but that's essentially what it looks like. So that was probably a bit complicated, but when you see it, it's not so complicated. All right, here we go. So we're going to throw our hatchet. We're going to apply our debuffs, disease, weaken, and rend. And then we're going to switch to our ice gauntlet to try to keep them at bay. All right, so that went pretty smoothly. Let's try it out with another suspect here. All right, so that one was a little more close combat than the previous one that we just did. But as you can see, you know, nothing's set in stone. You can kind of adjust as you need to. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed the Hash Slinging Slasher build. If there's anything that you notice that could be better, maybe my attribute points can be distributed somewhere else, or maybe an ability might work better with the build, feel free to let me know in the comments section. On my last video, someone mentioned something about the attributes, and it was great because it made the class or the build better. So I really do welcome that. I will be delving deeper into the build after the game is fully released at the end of August, so look forward to that. And I'll be streaming for the rest of the closed beta, and of course, when the game is finally upon us. I can't wait. I'm streaming on Twitch, twitch.tv/jmhits. You should see that on the screen, and hopefully I'll see you soon in Eternum.